This is the Unstarving Musicians Podcast. I'm your host, Rabanzo. This podcast features conversations with me and indie music artists. Conversations intended to help other indie musicians be better at marketing, business, the creative process, and all the other things that empower us to do more of what we love. Make music. Hey kids, thanks for tuning in for another episode. Two things before I tell you about my guests. Well, one thing really. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe. You can do that wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Why subscribe? You'll be privy to the latest episodes as they're released. Plus, you'll help other musicians find the podcast in doing so. How great is that? Also, yeah, there is a second thing. Please consider signing up for the Unstarving Musician community. By doing so, you'll receive helpful insights that I've picked up over the many years that I have worked as a gigging. Why is that so hard to say? As a gigging musician, plus those I've garnered from the hundreds of conversations I've had with other musicians, including those I have interviewed for this podcast. And you'll get a free copy of the official ebook version of the Unstarving Musician's Guide to Getting Paid Gigs, also available at the Unstarving Musician or unstarvingmusician.com/books, that is. If you sign up, I hope you enjoy it. Now then, Jenna and Daniel Watters are my guests for this episode. Their Austin-based project is called The Watters. Their latest album is also called The Watters. You get to hear a track from that album, by the way, called Blame It On Me at the end of this episode. We talk about their recent Kickstarter campaign, which was to support the release of their latest album. They made their goal, which was 10K, and they share what they learned during the process. But they also share a downside of this particular campaign, which is quite interesting. We get into their Facebook Live efforts, which I really enjoy watching. That was also a pretty heavy bit of activity for them to support the release of the Watters album. They're having a baby soon, a boy. Jenna says he'll be touring with them after about 6 months. We joked about this, but not jokingly, Daniel is working hard on their next album. He has a lot of songs he's written, fine-tuning and planning to record for the next album. They feel that they have the freedom and support to continue making music into next year, no problem. We'll see what the baby says about that. But interestingly, music is full-time for the Watters, but they don't really stress about the money aspect. They focus on making good music, or as Daniel says, making good art. They've learned that they can actually make more money by performing live with less frequency. They are genrefied as Americana rock and soul. They're recently performing as a jazz quartet, something Jenna is really getting into lately. They're known for doing great Fleetwood Mac covers. They are already mapping out next year, as I mentioned, with the recording of their latest album. And again, we'll see what the baby has to say about all this. They are crazy talented. Check out the show notes for this episode for links to some great live performances on video, and find everything else that they do at wearethewatters.com, and Watters is spelt with 2 T's. All right, here's me, Jenna, and Daniel, the Watters. Let's see where to start. You know, something new that I think I garnered just this evening, if you don't mind talking about it, is that it sounds like, or looks like you did a Kickstarter for your most recent album. Is that right?
Yeah, we did one. We actually did one to raise money for mainly the PR lady that we were telling you about. So we released the album, and we needed to hire somebody to help get our album out there, and that's what the money was raised for.
Very good. And how are you feeling about the money spent on her so far?
Oh, it was awful. It was a terrible experience. It was a complete waste of money, just to be completely honest with you about it.
Really?
Yeah. Not a complete, but it did not go well. She did a bad job overall.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I feel like I hear kind of a mixed bag from people about PR efforts when they're hiring someone, but once in a while I hear a good story. But anyway, it's a great album. Another thing I wanted to ask is, so I'm listening to several of them this evening, and I'm noticing a pretty consistent style. You can definitely tell it's the Watters, but some changes over time. And I was kind of curious, particularly, and I think I asked last time we spoke a little bit about this, but in a different way. And I was probably thinking just about the last two albums and trying to distinguish what the possible differences could have been. When I heard them, I don't know, just hear some small differences in their sound. So I was curious to know if you had the same or near the same or any of the same as far as the musician lineup for the recording sessions or the people that worked with you on the actual studio part of it as opposed to just the musicians.
The only person that was on the first album, other than Jenna and I, is the piano player.
Mm-hmm.
Piano player is Trevor Nealon, and he played on both records, and he's incredible. And he plays with the band The Heathens is kind of his main gig. I don't know if you've heard them, but they're pretty big down here in Texas. And so I think that was probably the main difference between the two albums. Is the second album, we definitely had the all-star team as far as musicians go. We had incredible drummer with us, and we had not only Trevor on piano, but we had a guy named Anthony Farrell on organ, and they played back-to-back at the same time, live, So it was all done. The second album was pretty much all live as far as the rhythm tracks go. So that definitely was the biggest difference, I would say, is the musicianship. And we, on the second album, we were telling you about that guy, Krongbin, the guy who engineered them, we brought on to engineer us, and he turned out to be a really great guy and someone we really vibed with. So yeah, both of those things were probably the biggest difference between the two.
And are you talking about, hopefully I'm getting the title right, 11 and Oak Creek Glorietta? Or were you referring to those?
I don't know. Yeah. Talking about. You're talking about the Oak Creek stuff?
No.
Yeah,
I'm asking you actually, or are you talking about the last two?
I was talking about the first Watters record to the second Watters record.
Okay.
The Great Unknown to the Water.
Thank you. Okay.
We have never had the same band for our older records too. When we were the Oak Creek band, when we recorded those albums, we still, even then, we didn't have the same lineup of musicians. I don't think we've ever had the same lineup of musicians on any of our albums. It's all been pretty eclectic and different.
Okay. Cool. Well, yeah, it's funny, I went back to what I believe is the first one, your release from 2013. And it's I guess distinguishably different in style for you guys, but sounds pretty good. And but anyway, the Watters, the current one, sounds fantastic. Love it. I gotta listen to it some more. I have some friends, and too, I'm always a little curious and amused about the self-genreification for artists, and there's one, I don't know what you guys typically tell people, but I saw rock and soul in your bio or maybe in one of your albums, and I have some friends in Silicon Valley who've always labeled themselves that way, although I don't think they play a shred of original music, but it's a cool sounding genre nonetheless. I did watch the Wednesdays with the Watters blooper reel again because it is that funny, and it brings me to ask, and I may be asking some of this stuff for a second time, but that seems like a cool thing that you do for the community aspect of your artistry, of your music, and building community. What else, if anything, do you guys do on that front to kind of help build community around what you're doing?
Well, I mean, the Wizards of the Watters was basically a way, when we first started working on our last album, it was kind of a way to help bring attention to the release of that album.
Mm-hmm.
just by getting content out. So that's kind of where it started. It started about a year ago.
Was that the first time that y'all had? Was it the first time y'all had done something like that? Because the album was coming, you're like, "Hey, we should do something." And
with that level of consistency,
yeah, we had done it here and there, over the years. But yeah, we just decided we were going to do it on a consistent basis for once in our lives, and yeah, and it worked good. It worked out.
Yeah, I hope you.
But other times, I guess we used to do like we travel back to our hometown Sedona all the time, and we put on these charity events and get 500 people out to these events. Back in the day, this was when we were the Oak Creek band, and we were still traveling quite often. But that was a fun thing and a good community thing that we always used to do. And I guess we did one this summer, didn't we? Or we went back and had it was kind of
we play
charity event.
We play charity events all the time. And I'm not sure if that's what you're asking necessarily.
No, but that's good. And well, it is, and it wasn't, but that's nice to hear about. And I always, when I bring up this whole community building thing, I just think about building your tribe or your following in that aspect. However, what you're talking about now, doing charitable events, very interested in hearing more about that if there is, and that's cool that you have done the regular pilgrimages back to Sedona to do them.
Oh yeah, we're like legends in Sedona, so we go back and not really, but we have I don't know. People love us out there, and it's always great because the community always comes together and supports us big time every time we come back. So it's good.
That's cool. I take it it's, Austin, I know is just dense with lots of music and great players. Do you feel a little more space when you go to Sedona? And I'm assuming there's a nice music scene there, but does it feel like you can stand out a little bit more?
No music scene.
Yeah, there really is not a music scene in Sedona. And I wouldn't just say Sedona, I would say Arizona in general has a pretty poor music scene.
Pretty dismal.
So you're like rock stars when you go back there then?
Yeah.
Feels like it, yeah. I think everyone's dying to have good live music, especially original music. I think there's a lot of bands that play cover shows, at bars.
They get the big bands that come through, and if you want to go see, Fleetwood Mac or whatever, and everyone rolls through Arizona, the big bands, but it's not like this, nothing like Austin where, there's just local bands. There's actually like great bands, that are just out on the street, just working it,
Yeah.
The music scene in Sedona is like a piano player.
At a piano bar. Yeah. At the airport. Yeah. Just kidding. You know what? I asked when we started about Kickstarter, and I got off it kind of quickly, probably because we were like, it was, we were talking about the downside of the publicist. But had you done one in the past for other projects, or was that the first one?
No, it was our first time we'd done Kickstarter. We always felt kind of weird about asking for money in the past. And this was the first time we just were like, well, we really believe in this project, and we think our fans are going to really love this new album. The Kickstarter came, with great perks, and people loved it. I mean, we had no problem meeting our goal. It was amazing to see. That's nice. Our fans and friends and family come through for us like that.
What was your target, if I may ask?
I think it was 10,000. Yeah, 10,000.
That's cool.
So and like we said, the majority of that went towards the PR lady and her small team out of Nashville, and. They did get a couple things, like they sent us to New York City to do a Paste magazine live performance and interview with that. So that was that was probably the best thing we got out of it. But besides that, it was pretty frustrating. Then we were forewarned. We were told by other musicians, PR could be iffy. So just be forewarned that it could go south, and it did, but we had to give it a shot. So now we know.
Sure. And it seems like aspects of it were a good experience. Can you see yourselves doing another one next time around and just utilizing the funds a little differently?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. What do you think, Daniel?
Yeah. We would definitely use Kickstarter or some, maybe not Kickstarter, but definitely one of those platforms are great. Yeah, I think it helps. It generates, excitement, and it gets everybody on the same page for the same goal. So yeah, good.
Cool. I'm glad to hear that. And so it was your first time. How did you prepare for it? Did you have, peers that you talked to a lot, or what? Did you have some guidance, or did you just dig into the platform and learn everything you could? How did you get through it? And you obviously have very supportive fans, but what else did you do?
Well, we did a pledge music for our vinyl when we were the Oak Creek Band, our final. So it wasn't as big of a campaign, but we kind of had seen how it worked. And then this was more, we just looked at everybody else's, and saw what people were doing, and kind of knew from experience that the traps that you can get in, over promising yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And say, we're going to write a handwritten letter to every person who pays us $50 or whatever, So we kind of knew those pitfalls.
Which I did. I actually did. I did write every single person a handwritten thank you note.
But you know what I mean? We did do, some of the Wednesdays with the Watters. One of the things was if you paid, X amount, you got to pick a Wednesday with the Watters video, pick a song for it. So we were doing that for a while, and even that was was quite a bit,
Yeah, we had maybe 8 people pay for us to play Wednesdays with the Watters video, and they got to pick the song. So it was this little. We had 3 different people choose John Denver's song.
The same song funny, or different ones?
No, different ones. Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah. So, but hey, people get what they pay for. So.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, I'm glad you're going to do it again. And, you mentioned at the outset that you've had past sentiment of feeling a little weird, or whatever word you used for asking for money. Since you have done it, are you thinking about doing anything like a Patreon, or doing a self created type thing where people can subscribe, or what do they call it? Pledge, or no, not pledge, but patronize you.
Yeah.
Have you thought about that?
Yeah, that was discussed for this record. We talked about doing that, but I still am not sure about that.
We just need to dig in more into finding out more about Patreon. We don't know that much about it. I mean, we know that people can basically, they get content. As far as what I have learned about it is they get content by paying a monthly fee or something to you, they subscribe to you.
So it's you get recurring income from somebody. $12 a year.
And you get to design. You get, from what I understand, you kind of get to design your different levels, and offer, kind of not too unlike Kickstarter. Depending on what level someone subscribes at, then you have different things that you're doing for them or giving to them. Did I mention? Because I might have asked you about this before, but did I mention Bradford and Kimberly Loomis, who were on the podcast? They're like king. Did I? Yeah.
Yeah, you did tell us about that.
I need to send you the blog post, if I didn't already, that she wrote, because a lot of people were asking them, and I think I heard man, I think I just heard, I know I heard on a podcast, I think it's a podcast I listened to about podcasting, but that, I don't think they were picking on Patreon, but for some reason it was relevant that they had mentioned that Patreon is looking at some difficulties with continuing their business model. And that was a very broad statement. I don't know what it meant, but it just kind of made me think about that old saying about being careful with running too much of what you're doing on rented land, so to speak.
Yeah.
The Patreons or Facebooks of the world. So, but anyway, yeah. I think... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You first.
Well, I was just going to say, Daniel works full-time. I'm not working full-time now since I just took my maternity leave, but we both have worked full-time jobs ever since we started doing music together.
Mm-hmm. So,
we've been supporting ourselves, and a lot of musicians that we know that do things like Patreon or, stuff like that, they're pretty much solely doing music as their source of income.
Yeah, that's true. I think.
And, not only that, but we have a very supportive family who has invested in our project, from the get-go. And I think that's just, we've always just felt weird about asking for money because it's not like we're necessarily starving musicians.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we pay the rent, we pay the bills with our day jobs. And then if sometimes we'll have some great shows that will pay the rent, as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't really had to rely on, something like Patreon. We've always
kind of, music's always been our art, more so than our job.
Mm-hmm.
We were, when we lived in Denver, I think we were probably the closest to like supporting ourselves mostly on music. We reached a point right before we moved, but then we moved, and we decided that wasn't what we wanted, and so we moved to Nashville and kind of reset up shop there. And we were still the Oak Creek band and same thing, we were just trying to make great albums. We made 2 great albums there, and just it's like this business is so who knows, and it's like so we're just kind of happy doing it regardless, and just try and make good art and make something that's timeless, and hopefully someday the money will come. But if it doesn't, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing a darn fine job. And the funny thing is, when I listen to your work and just kind of glance at what you're doing in your online world, I know that we've talked about this, that you have worked full time, and music's a bit of it's an artistic endeavor. And I was going to say side hustle, but it's really just an artistic endeavor that you have been doing for a long time. But what I wanted to say is, when I listen to your work and see what you're doing and the quality of it, I didn't even think of you that way. I think, oh yeah, these guys are totally like doing it and trying to figure out how to make a living. So I keep going back to these, or I ask you about things like doing a Patreon type of thing and Kickstarter and all that. But anyway, yeah, nice reminder. You guys know Ray Prim, don't you?
Yeah. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a real nice guy. He certainly not the first person I've known, but he was the first one I talked to on the podcast about working full time and being. Actually, I take it back. Laura Price was who I. Do you know Laura Price by chance?
That name sounds familiar.
She's kind of new in town, relatively speaking, in Austin. She was in San Jose, California which is where I met her, probably close to, we probably arrived there, we did arrive there very close to the same year, but she was there, I think 17 or 18 years, and then somewhat recently moved to Austin. But I had her on the podcast a couple of times. I believe the first time we talked about it, I'm just asking her about starting over, new town, new scene, getting to know people. And she mentioned this Ray Prim guy who I didn't know at the time. And she says she'd been grinding it out as a full-time singer, songwriter in kind of the blues scene. I mean, she loves playing rock and pop to kind of had a dual life in her music, but was really has a real affinity for singing blues and continues to do it. But she told me in that interview that I think I'm going to do what Ray's doing. He is working full time, and kind of where music is concerned, he's loving life. He plays more when he wants to and doesn't stress about it, and which is where she had been for at least part of the many years that she was doing it. So I guess just to come back to you guys, they were the first couple of people that I talked to for the podcast about that, because in all three cases, you and them play at such a high level. I can look at any one of you or listen to you and just assume that you're full time.
Well, it is full time.
Yeah, it is, huh?
Full time. It's just the other half of the day.
Yeah.
But just like what you said with what she said, is like you can, if you work a full-time job, then on the side, besides your musician, then you can be picky and choosy about the kind of gigs that you do. You don't have to play crap shows that pay you barely any money, because you're not trying, it's not like, oh, I have to play all these crappy gigs because I need to pay rent, so it gives you that freedom to just pick and choose and play really, really good shows and not play.
For a while,
so
we were doing like two shows a month. That was like our thing for like the first few years we were here. And now, it's like a show every month or two, and so we're starting to get to the point, and you make every show just a big deal instead of, just, and the income, it gets better and better because of that too. So it's like, you might not be playing once a week for, X amount, but you play once a month and you make 4 times that. So you kind of,
Do you have, kind of like the question with the albums, I guess, but do you have a relatively consistent roster for live shows, given that they're a little spread out that way, or do you kind of have do you kind of go off of a short list of players that generally
well,
the guys you want?
Austin is amazing because everybody plays with each other, and it's a great community. And I have a million musicians' phone numbers in my phone. But we like to stick with the same people as much as possible.
Sure.
I joke that we kind of have a dad band and a young gun band. Because we like the session musicians are all dads and like, 30s and older and just, and then we have like there's like a UT scene here. So we have like a lot of our horn players are like young, recent UT grads and just super, super talented kids, so sometimes you get a mix of the dads and the kids, and sometimes and we're kind of always right in the middle of everybody, and, but that's so we definitely have like Trevor Nealon, like he's coming over tonight, to jam. We're going to work on new music, and our bass player, nice. Joe, he's like our dude. He plays every single show with us.
Is that the guy that looks like Paul McCartney?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't think so. He's redhead.
I don't know if you have any. That was Steve. He was in the Oak Creek band.
Okay.
Steve hasn't been with us since we've been the Watters. That was actually when Steve parted ways with us. We changed our band name to the Watters. But yes, he does look like Paul McCartney. That's funny.
I saw that on Instagram, and I'm remembering now there was something about someone named Steve, and I'm not sure that I really saw a picture of Steve, and I was like, what if that's him and he really freaking looks like Paul McCartney? So, well, that's nice. I think in talking to Ray, I've talked to Ray Prim maybe most about that. That he's just got some different guys he has to call on from depending on the gig, and maybe you two are the same way. He has a lot of permeations of what his band might look like or consist of depending on where he's playing and what kind of gig it is. What are your, so you two still clearly love performing live, or it sounds like you do anyway. What are what's your favorite type of gig or gigs or places to play?
Well, we just played the Moody Theater, like the smaller venue where they tape ACL. So they have like the big room where they tape, and then they have like a front venue that's just a little bit smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Called 310.
So we just played there, and it was sold out, and it was, like a funk night. So we were grooving, and that's ideal, is if we play ticketed shows where people are getting down and, high energy, fun shows. That's what we live for, or that's what I personally live for, I know.
Yeah.
And so that's what we want to do, but we do, like, the next week we played a corporate gig,
Mm-hmm.
and it was total opposite. We got paid really well, but it was like, everybody's standing around talking.
We're just a background noise.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? And they will
fun.
tell you they had the best time too, but it just seems such a different vibe.
I know. Those are great paying gigs, though, so they're hard to say no to.
Yeah, I get it.
But I agree with Daniel. I really love the high energy fun shows. We also started a jazz quartet. I don't know if we told you. We might have told you this last time, but I've been Daniel's always been a kind of a jazz dude. He was in like a jazz band growing up in high school and stuff. But I'm recently in my deep in my jazz phase right now. So I wanted to start a quartet. So we found a couple jazz musicians here in town, and we play quartet shows sometimes. And I really, really, really love that too. I have a lot of fun with those shows.
That's cool. If someone wanted to hear a little taste of that, do you have any videos or recordings of the jazz thing you're doing?
Not sure there's any evidence.
Yeah, that's
What's that?
There really isn't anything. We've just been doing it for fun. People keep asking us, like, when they book us, if we have photos or any videos or anything so that they can, promote us on social media. And we don't really have anything. So I think next time we do the jazz gig, we'll make sure we get some footage, and so that people actually believe we have a jazz side project.
Yeah, well, I, for one, would love to hear it. I'm sure it's a fun contrast. The gig that you mentioned, the Moody Theater, is that what it's called?
Yes.
Is that? Did you by chance play that with Tomar and the FCs? Tomar and the FCs? Is that how you say it?
No, but we played Antone's, our CD release show. We played with them at Antone's.
Okay.
And we love those guys.
Are they Austin based?
They are, and they're incredible soul band. We really love them.
You had some mention of them either on, I think it was on Instagram, and so I clicked through and listened to. Well, I watched a video. I was like, they definitely look like a fun band to watch.
Yeah.
So that's nice to hear that you like them as well. You.
Yeah.
I just want to say you guys. I don't guess anybody cares, but it sounds funny, doesn't it? A little bit if you think about it too much. But you guys love. You guys like Fleetwood Mac, right? You do some sort of occasional tribute thing, or you play some of their music from time to time. Is that right?
We do, yeah. And, it's funny because I think Daniel and I both can say that we've never been huge Fleetwood Mac fans. But for some reason, I think it all started with we had some friends get married, and they said they wanted us to be their band, but they wanted Fleetwood Mac songs. And so
we want you to play the Rumors album from beginning to end at our wedding.
Yeah. So we learned a bunch of Fleetwood Mac songs, and then we started playing them at shows, and people would just go nuts. And then we got asked to do more weddings. Like, we actually did a wedding last summer they wanted only Fleetwood Mac for like an hour. So we were just like, well, we have all these Fleetwood Mac songs, learn. Why don't we try out like a cover show and see how it goes? And we did one, and it sold out. And then the next year we did 2 nights in a row. Both nights sold out. People go crazy over Fleetwood
People love tribute bands, man. I tell you, it's hilarious.
I know.
Yeah, we kind of had to like stop. They kept asking us to do it again, and we were just, I don't know, we just couldn't do it.
Are we the Watters or the Fleetwood Mac tribute band, right?
Like, yeah, I just got a little burnt out, I think, on it, maybe.
That's funny.
But we're trying to like do a different one every year. Like we're going to do a Beatles one next year, which we've done before. We did a Beatles tribute in Denver, and I did a Tenacious D tribute last year.
That's great. I think you should do what's Jack White's first band, the White Stripes? Yeah, definitely a White Stripes tribute.
Oh, White Stripes. You play drums together.
I'll learn drums for that one.
Yeah. About as good.
I'm assuming you found the Fleetwood Mac tunes, the repertoire, you found a lot of songs in there that were actually just fun to play, right?
Oh yeah. I definitely, I gained a lot from mimicking Lindsay and like his solos and stuff, because they're so simple and expressive, and it definitely helped me kind of find some, I don't know, some power and simplicity.
It's a weird thing about playing. I've played a lot of covers in my life and continue to, but it's a weird thing how they can, and I would imagine as a guitar player and singer, it's, well, I mean, I know from experience singing, not at the same level that you do, but it's amazing how they stretch your whatever natural styles you have when you start learning other people's music around, be it requests or some band that you're working with or whatever, or some artist that's just doing a couple of cover songs. And for me, a lot of times I'm like, oh, really? But then I start listening to it, and I'm learning it. I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of cool, and it's a stretch for me, so it's fun.
Yeah,
fun stuff.
Well, singing Stevie songs is definitely, especially back in the earlier days when they first started. She had quite a range, and it was, interesting singing her songs, and but I actually am a bigger Christine McVie fan, and I like her songs a lot more, a lot more upbeat and poppy. So I don't know. People always kind of compared us to them even before we were doing these shows. People would kind of say, "Oh, you guys sound like you're Fleetwood Mac with a horn section or something." So I think
it just kind of like took on a life of its own. It was bizarre, and it really helped us kind of like cement us in the Austin music scene, kind of when we first moved here.
Yeah.
Everybody, I don't know.
I could see that it would be a helpful thing in whatever years past and in the future, because everybody wants to genreify you, and if they can hear that you kind of sound like anything they're familiar with, they're like, okay, I'll check it out. And whatever, they may not even, totally. It's so funny too, people may not even be into Fleetwood Mac, for instance, but if you tell them that they're going to go see some live show and this band sounds like Fleetwood Mac, they're like, oh yeah, that'd be kind of cool. But
yeah, no, totally. They need something they can kind of relate to.
Yep. Are you? So I heard you mentioned earlier that your piano player, I believe it is coming over to work on some new tunes with you. What are your plans for the next release? What are you hoping for?
That's a good question. We have zero plans right now, because we're going to see what baby says.
That's right.
I'm not letting Daniel go too nuts with planning a new album right now, because he's got Papa Duty coming up.
So that's why I'm trying to get some of these new songs down on wax before, so we just have some record of it before baby comes.
Yeah.
Because I have like a lot of new songs that are in the vault that need to be birthed as well. So we're going to try and get some of those out tonight, just get them down so I can get copyrights going, and like just do some, I'm trying to like, the past couple albums have been like a lot of preparation on some of the stuff, and then like some of the stuff is you go in, or we just had in the studio, we just kind of did it the last second, which is great. But obviously we're gonna have a lot more time to marinate on this record, so it's gonna be a big production whenever that is. I love doing it how we've always done it, kind of live, and so I want to do that even more so, and like have the horns with us, and like have everything ready, and like we'll just knock it out, kind of as live as possible, and then but also kind of get weird with it, and kind of, I don't know, we'll see. Yeah, so we've got a lot more time to experiment, and I can do pre-production and demos and stuff while we raise baby here for a while, and then when we feel comfortable and we're ready to start recording, I would say probably in a year or 7 months to a year's time.
I was gonna say when the kid's 18.
Yeah, when he's ready to be our drummer.
Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe 8 months to a year is probably when we start recording, and so that would put the next record out in probably 1.5 years range, 2 years range.
Do you think it'll? So I'm trying to remember. Is the Watters? Is that an EP, or is it kind of more like what we traditionally look at in terms of full length? How many songs was it?
What was it? Not 8.
Full length, 10. 10 songs.
You think you'll do that again? Something like that?
Yeah, we have enough material for it.
Oh, good.
So, by the time we record, we're going to have like 20 songs, so we'll just make a really good album out of the best of those,
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear it. Being the weird, and you're, because your life is what it is. The irony of what I'm about to say, you have the freedom that you do, which is about to go away entirely, but that you have had the freedom to put out the music the way you want to. It's a strange time though, and but it's fun to hear different artists talk about, or just even if they don't have plans yet, and we're everyone's kind of trying to figure it out. Well, do I just release singles, and do I do another EP? Does anybody care? And I'll tell them about I've had a couple of artists who, for different reasons, or like one guy was releasing last year a song with a video every month, and that's just what he was going to do over the next year, and then just different things like that. But it's becoming more rare that I talk to anyone that's just planning more of a full length album. So it's nice to hear.
Well, I think not only because music is just so readily available online, and I think people these days just unfortunately don't have the attention span to listen to a full album. It's weird. I don't know what it is, but I think, EPs, releasing like singles at a time, or releasing like 3-4 song EPs is I don't know, I guess easier for people, or it's become more popular. But I think we're just kind of traditional and old school in that regard. We like full length albums. We like vinyl.
So
yeah,
might as well make it a. I don't know. It's just the form is. I've got too many songs to just release an EP.
Sure, you've got the material. What the heck?
Got the material, yeah.
I do like the idea, though, of like, we've talked about this before, like every month. Well, maybe we did that for the 11 album.
Yeah, we did it.
We did do that for the 11 album. We released a song a month, and then we released the whole album.
A week?
I don't know. Maybe it was a week. We released a song at a time before the album was fully available.
Yeah, it was cool. It worked out good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like
ideas like that.
Yeah, it seems fun, as long as it, is not somehow just putting too much extra work on you. But it's certainly kind of fun for the fans, I would think. This is reminding me. I wanted to ask, like, obviously, if someone picks up vinyl from you or a CD, there's some liner notes involved, but it seems, am I correct? And I was kind of looking around. I wanted to ask the questions about the bands and the lineups, like, why you can't get liner notes online for most stuff, right?
Yeah, our Bandcamp does, because
okay.
yeah, it does. I think that's the only thing that does, though.
And our
website will have it too, but I think you're right. I mean, I think in general it's hard to find that.
Do you have a you do have a Bandcamp link on the website? Cool. All right, well, good to know, because I saw, I think at a glance, and I mean, you just need to go back and look again. I was like, okay, well, this album on your website has some liner notes, and this one doesn't, but maybe they all do, and go back. But is that true for most artists? Do you find that as far as digital stuff goes, if they are going to have that type of information, it's through Bandcamp or anything else that's more like that? Because certainly not on Spotify or iTunes.
I don't know. I kind of don't think I think it's about half and half, I mean, definitely not every artist does that, for sure.
Yeah.
And they're probably like, nobody cares.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like just musicians we look at people's liner notes, and we're interested to see who played what on records, but I think fans in general, I don't think are looking necessarily at that.
No.
I'm not sure, but just my guess.
Probably not. That's part of what I think used to, we just didn't have that much entertainment to choose from in years past, and we could sit around and smoke weed and read all the liner notes over and over and read the lyric sheets.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, what, it's so hard. I was, going to ask you, what do you see, next year, what do you see with your community? You're not going to be doing anything next year but taking care of your baby.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
We don't have any plans right now. The one thing we have on the books is we have a gig in Houston in September.
But who are we kidding? Like we it'll be 6 months by then. We'll have help. We say that we're gonna Daniel says a year. When he just said a year and a half, 2 years for this next album, I kind of laughed inside. I'm like, yeah, right. He's probably going to have the album ready a lot sooner. I mean, there's no, especially for Daniel, there's no stopping the music happening. It's going to happen, and the baby's going to be very involved in it. And I just know that's how it's going to be. He'll come on tour with us, and we have grandparents that will come and help us, and I don't really see, maybe the next, the rest of the year will be dedicated to, having a healthy, happy baby. But I think things will just pick up as normal after that, and we'll just keep doing it. And baby's just going to be there by our side and just kind of along for the ride. That's my opinion.
Well, here's a way to ask the question that I would normally ask. When life resumes to whatever sense of normalcy it does for the Watters in the Watters household and musically, do you see anything in the near future that you'll be doing either differently, or you just kind of have your sights set on to somehow improve the getting all the music out there aspect of what you're doing? And it could be,
I think,
go ahead, sorry.
We're gonna overhaul whenever it comes time, so whenever it's time to release the next record, we'll pretty much overhaul everything, new media, new, redesign website, just to reanalyze our, the way we do business, and adapt however we see fit. I don't know. I have zero idea what that is right now. I haven't given it two thoughts. That will come when it's time. I think we'll probably look for a manager again, in the future.
Booking agent. Well, and that's what I was going to say. I think a big change for us will be to finally get out in Texas and start playing in Texas. I mean, when we lived in Denver and when we lived in Nashville, we were touring all over the place. We would go up to New York, Chicago, down to, New Orleans and all over, because it's a little easier to get from point A to point B and tour. But since we moved to Texas, like, you're kind of in the middle of a giant state here, being in Austin. And so touring and getting out isn't as convenient as it used to be. So we haven't really been touring. But I think if we can get around to, all the bigger and smaller Texas towns and kind of make a name for ourselves in the state of Texas, I think that's going to be big for us. So something we've yet to do, and I think that's definitely in the cards.
I think that sounds great and very doable for you guys. You're, you sound and look fantastic. I hope that I'll get to see a live show one of these days next time I fly through my home state of Texas.
So you live in Panama, is that right?
Yeah. I was born in Fort Worth and spent, I think I can still say most of my life there. And then my wife and I met in Arlington, where I grew up, and then 17 years in San Jose, California, and then we're going on 3 years here in Panama. We're currently living in a beach condo community, kind of a resort community, and just living the slow life. A little bit of music down here. That was a kind of a shocker. I didn't realize how much it would be, but we were kind of both ready for the change and in lifestyle, and so I did think about it, but it's been an adjustment. However, here where we are now, we didn't start here. We were in a more rural area. And there's a little more music going on here, and I'm starting to meet people. And there seems to be, I imagine it happens in waves, but there seems to be an influx of musicians coming around, so that's nice. And probably the podcast really just sort of helps me feel somehow connected to the dense music world.
Well, Pan sounds like a nice life.
Yeah.
In a beach community in Panama. Maybe we'll have to do the same one day.
Well, I highly recommend it. Of course, some planning and, trying it out and all that helps, but I can definitely recommend it. And if nothing else, visit.
Yeah, for sure. We would love to.
So, well, Jenna and Daniel, thank you so much for spending time with me a second time. For those of you listening, I asked them if I could have a do-over. I had some challenges with our first conversation, although I think when I go back and listen to it, I'm probably going to have two nice episodes. There are plenty to choose from anyway, but thank you for spending time with me again, especially in light of the fact that you're about to have a human being drop out of you any moment. And
of course,
I wish you both all the best with your baby, and look forward to hearing about his or her arrival. Do you know if you're having a boy or girl?
A boy.
Well, I look forward to hearing about and hopefully seeing his arrival online. And I will definitely be speaking with you both again soon.
All right, brother.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Oh, blame it on me. All the signs were there to see. Didn't think, react, or speak. No, I didn't think that this would happen to me. Oh, blame it on me. No, I didn't say a thing, 'cause I was sure that I was free. That they'd be coming for me, but they're coming for me now. 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 Oh, blame it on me. do to get above? Well, maybe we've just all gone numb, but it's not too late to speak up. But they're coming for me now. They're coming for me now. They're coming for me now. Oh, they're coming for me now. Oh, blame it on me. They're coming for me now. They're coming for me now. They're coming for me now. They're coming for you now. Oh, blame it on me. Just blame it all on me. Just blame it all on me. Oh, blame it on me. Oh, blame it on me. Just blame it all on me. Just blame it all on me. Oh, blame it on me.
Hey, thanks for listening. Question for you. Are you struggling to move your music journey forward? I can help. If not personally, then by referring you to the next best available resources. Schedule a free 15-minute call with me to find out if I can indeed help you. It's easy. Just visit unstarvingmusician.com/coaching to schedule your call today. Look for links to just about everything covered in this episode in the show notes at unstarvingmusician.com/podcast. This episode was powered by the Unstarving Musician's Guide to Getting Paid Gigs, how to get booked and paid what you're worth over and over again. It's available on paperback, Kindle, and ebooks just about everywhere you can find them. It's also available as a standalone podcast called the Unstarving Musician's Guide podcast. You can learn more about the book and companion podcast at unstarvingmusician.com/book. I'd love it if you picked up a copy and would love it even more if you left a review. With much gratitude, peace, love, and more cowbell.